guys, welcome to Punch Me in the Face, the podcast. I have one of my favorite people in the history of the world on today. Pastor Matthew, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you as always.
It's great to be with you. If you guys don't know the Dream Center, the LA Dream Center in East LA, if you don't know it, then you're missing out. If you don't know Pastor Matthew Barnett, you're definitely missing out. Pastor Matthew Barnett, people ask me all the time. I built a lot of businesses, had a lot of success. It's been great, cool, awesome. The biggest one I built is, it's $1 billion company. We do $1 billion in sales, cool, annually. That's awesome. 4 years ago in November, I met Pastor Matthew at the Dream Center. And the company at that time was trying to do a couple $100 million a year, maybe, And you have to understand that if you don't follow them on Instagram, you don't follow the Dream Center, you're missing out, because this is actually the hardest working. I've never been around anybody, and I say this with all due respect. I've met all of y'all that watch, so maybe you do. I've never met anybody that works as hard as me. I know it probably sounds, I haven't. I've met a million people that are much better at a lot of shit than me. There ain't nobody I've ever met personally that I spent time with that works harder than me, except for this guy. Not one person. I've never said it about anybody else. So if you can go through anything you want, any clips you want. I've never said it about anybody. This is the hardest working man I've ever met in my life. And it's hard when you work, because I know my deficits. So I work really hard, right? I understand how hard business is. I understand those things. So it's the heart you have to serve people is unmatched. But I see a lot of people trying to serve. I've never seen anybody work as hard at it as you. Ever. Yeah. So for those, first of all, Pastor Matthew, I'd love you just to kind of talk about, and I don't really know a lot about your father's he's like 80 something going on like 20. He's a gangster too. He's unbelievable. Your brother's a great dude. I met him. He's got his own place in, is it Northern Phoenix? Is it in Phoenix?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
In Scottsdale. Yep.
In Scottsdale. Phenomenal family, servants' hearts. But walk us through, because I love the story of so you're raised by a very successful pastor. I mean, you're in the church. You guys are in the whole. That's your deal. You and your brother go on to also pastor. Mm-hmm. Talk to us though about the Dream Center and how we're driving through these neighborhoods. I used to tell Pastor Matthew, you have to watch the show The Shield. If you're like over 40. You might remember when it came out, and it was my favorite, still is my favorite series. I don't know where you find it. It's on Netflix or somewhere else, but it's all based on like Alvarado and this corner that. And I never when I started going to Dream Center, I'm like, oh dude, this like The Shield. And it was a serious like gang task force, because it used to be a real, and probably still is, but a terrible area. And I was like infatuated with the show, Echo Park and all these things that I never even knew where they were, being from Connecticut. How are you where you are today? And how did that start with, whether it's your dad or you? How did y'all end up building what you built in East LA?
That's a great question, because everything that we do here is because of how I was raised. My father was the first one to work so hard to build a church of 10,000. He was the first one to hit that mark. But the thing I remember the most was every Sunday morning, he would get the family in the car and we would drive down through the projects, and he would pick up families and bring them to church. And I said, Dad, we have buses that do this. We got staff that do this. Why are we doing it? And he said, because in everything you do, you got to learn how to prepare your heart. He goes, we're good at preparing our skills. We're good at preparing our talents, but you have to allow your heart to be broken over and over again if you want to stay in the call of helping people. And I'll never forget that. He said, I spend more time putting myself in situations where I can have my heart broken than I do to help others than I do any other thing. And so I said, what do you mean? He used to stand out and just watch people in the cars. They walk into the church, and he said, I would fall in love with the people. I would think about, the couple that maybe just got to church, they were fighting on the way here, and that's okay, but they struggled to get here. And I just kind of evaluated the people as they were walking in. And I thought to myself, I have to have my heart broken. And so growing up, my dad would take me all these places in the neighborhoods. He would like, hey, let's go down there at 5 o'clock at night and do this, or 7, 8 in school nights. And then every Saturday morning, we had a bus route that we would go out to the neighborhoods and pick up people for church. And yet his church was 10,000 and he had all the staff he could ever want. And it reminded me a lot of you, Sean, in the sense of where you have such a big work, but you always throw yourself into the valley. You throw yourself into humanity. When you were signing books, you were asking people about their life. And I think when you start having great influence, the responsibility for the one becomes even stronger. And he would always reach out to the one in the midst of the big crowd. And that's what I noticed in Miami, different things, just walking around, just like, a fan of other people's dreams. And I think one of the things that was cool is that he always cared more about other people's dreams as much as his own. And then later in life, all those people came to help him build his dream. So I think that's the foundation of everything we do here in Los Angeles. It's when we get tired, when maybe we can feel frustrated from time to time, we just throw ourselves right back into the simplicity of the need, whether it be going to Skid Row or, my son, he's been serving all summer long, 17 years old. He's been taking people on the streets. And he said, Dad, I've had 3 people we've had to use the Narcans to bring them back to life again. And some people say that's hard for a 17-year-old kid to experience. And it's different than my day even. He said, people are dying everywhere. We're having to revive them and learn how to use these Narcans just to bring them back in MacArthur Park and Skid Row, places like that. And I thought, man, when you have your heart broken, that's when great things start to happen. You start feeling the need of humanity and serving. And so unless you're when you're a great leader, I believe that the responsibility to reach even lower becomes most important to really establish that foundation in your heart.
First of all, you said a lot. It's hard because I was trying to write notes down and listen to you at the same time. And because I always learn so much from you. When you have your heart broken, I think somebody asked me this yesterday. It was my chiropractor who does really well. And he said, my kids are young. And my concern is that I want to raise them right, and they don't want for nothing. Yeah. And they probably aren't going to want for nothing. But how do I ensure that they're prepared for the real world? Right? Because I think there's this, it's not that your son's got a perfect life, but let's be honest, he has a good life. Mm-hmm. Loving parents, you're safe, mm-hmm. You're servants, you're a pastor, your wife's very involved in church. It's like really great family and has what he should have, a hedge of protection over him. And he has a deep faith. So it doesn't rest with just you and your wife. So like and what he's going through now and what he's seen is heartbreaking. But to your point, if you don't, I'm always concerned that people get heartbroken too late in life. And then they don't know what to do with it because it's like their first real heartbreak. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and you see him and you're like I just had a guy come to my house, super nice guy. And he's like, just really shook up. And this thing happened. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like I was getting rejected when I was real young. Like, I don't know. I didn't so, and then it does. I don't know that it hardens your heart. It strengthens your heart. It's good. I don't know that it I don't think it's hard. It strengthened my heart. Right. I don't think it hardened it, and when you look at where you guys are at, because this is such a great story. And I think people have to understand this, because everything I've seen somebody build, like they built it. There was a time where they were like, dude, this sucks. And I might quit. Right. Like because I think to build something special, you have to do something special, and doing something special means you take on risk, and doing something special means that there are times you're like, dude, this just sucks. Like we had been in business about 2 years, going through all this litigation, never been through litigation. And my attorneys called me up and said, it's over. I answered the phone. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? I'm in a meeting. I was in a meeting in Destin, Florida. Mm-hmm. I'm outside, little dumpster, meetings inside, about 50 people. We've been in business. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We've been in business misspoke, about 9 months officially. Okay. And I'm like, what's up, guys? They're like, it's over. I said, what do you mean? It's 2 of them on there. They said, we got a restraining order from the court that prohibits you from being in business with the people you're in business with. It prohibits you from recruiting anybody. And we don't even know if you can sell life insurance even by yourself. I literally felt like if you've been punched in the stomach or had the wind knocked out of you, It's a weird, it's like, you're like, why can't I, mostly happened in football, right? Like, I'm like, why can't, you get used to it, like, they get the wind knocked out of me. You know what I mean? Some dude didn't want to hit me head on because he knew I would run him over. So he puts his helmet and his shoulder pads into my stomach. Like, okay, cool. Congratulations. You win. It felt like I doubled over. I went down to my knees and I was like,
Wow.
I said, all right, can you send me a copy of what you're talking about? I'll call you back. Only because I didn't know what to say. And after about 10, 15 minutes, I gathered myself, went back in the meeting. I don't think I did any good. And I was staying at the house of the guy that ran the meeting with like 4 people that work with us. So I hadn't told anybody yet. And I was watching them and I'm like, and they're just so excited, right? We have this opportunity and they have families and kids and spouses. So I called my attorney and I was like, hey man, and I'd gotten the order at this point in time. And I said, hey, I read it. I don't read it the way you read it. And let's do this. When you have a restraining order, like I didn't get to comment on the restraining order. They filed it and they got it granted to them. Mm-hmm. Why don't I just continue to do what I'm doing, which will be a violation of the restraining order. And then why don't we just get a hearing in court? And the crux of it was that they said we recruited all these people. We solicited them, right? At the time, we had like 1,200 people working with us. And like they said, we couldn't work with any of them. And so I said, why don't I just get why don't you all create an affidavit? We'll get them signed. If they don't want to sign it, they don't have to. We'll get it signed and notarized, but it will state that because they weren't solicited. Like they weren't like, you put the language in there. He goes, how many can get signed? It's 100% of them. And we got 100% of them signed, like in 2 weeks. Oh. Kept going. They filed the restraint. But it was like, my attorney's like, you can't. And I say, guys, good legal advice is to do nothing. That's not good business advice. Good legal advice is the Dream Center shouldn't let anybody come in because there's liability. Don't let anybody come in ever because they're going to do something stupid, which doing something stupid, the Dream Center is a bad idea because I just think that it can end up in a really bad thing. Messing with me is like a bad idea for a lot of other reasons, but messing with them, like, dude, they got like God on their side. I wouldn't be doing that, but that's on you if you want to do that. Hell's forever. Just remember that it's for eternity. But so for us, it was like, you know what? We're just going to go ahead. And we did. And we went to court and they're like, they did all these things. We had all these affidavits. Judge asked a few questions. Before you know it, he had modified the order and just let us all continue to work together.
Wow.
But I'll never forget because they said it was over. Okay. You had a moment, a Dream Center moment where you thought it was over early, right? Yeah. Can you walk us through that? And obviously it's not over because of what you built now. Can you walk us through that and what that looked like and how that happened?
Yeah, I think to some degree we've had several of those moments, but the one that I remember the most in 29 years is a long time. Anything could happen. You weather storms, you weather financial seasons, you weather all kinds of things. And I remember one time we were like unable to make like the payroll at church, and it was so tough. And so I walked down the aisle and I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't tell people we can't pay them this month and all that. And then I just heard the impression of the Lord just telling me, you have money, you have everything, you have credit cards, everything you have, just throw at it and keep it going and just get up the next morning and just see what will happen. And so I decided to do that. I just emptied every credit card, every bank account. I had nothing left. I had like $18 left. I can remember the actual number. And I said, you know what? Leaders don't run in hard times. They stay in there and they fight and they go for it. And I just told the team, I said, we're short, but I'm going to pay for everything. I'll make sure everything I have saved up for years. I'm just going to make sure we make it during this cycle. And then I woke up the next morning and sometimes the best thing you can do when you think it's over is just have the power of showing up. Just show up and see what will happen. The Bible says that there's new mercies every single morning, but you have to get to the next morning in order to find those mercies. They're like checkpoints and blessing along the way. And got up the next day and someone said, hey, why don't you run the marathon challenge, 7 marathons on 7 continents? And the very next day, somebody challenged me. They said, I'll give you $100,000 if you run the 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. We didn't have $100,000. I'm like, sure, I'll do it in a year, because we need 100,000 now. So I said, and so that was kind of that process of training and then running the 7 marathons on every continent on 7 consecutive days, including Antarctica. And that became a turning point. But there's crisis moments where you really do think it's all over. But when you show up the next morning, your perspective changes. Sometimes you'll get that weird impression that everything's going to be okay. It hits you for like 10 seconds. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? I believe those are little nudges from God to remind you that if you just keep going, you're going to find the blessing along the way. Fear is crazy because fear can hit you so hard to a place to where you can go to exaggerated places in your mind. You can go to the worst case scenario very, very fast. I think it's easier for us to go to the worst case scenario in life than it is to go to the best case scenario, which usually works itself out at the end. So I've just learned to get up and show up and see what will happen next. And so now every morning I wake up, I say to myself, God, where's the miracle going to come from today? And I really believe that. And because ultimately God loves the people that we're serving more than we do. He loves the people that are broken. He loves that 20-year-old girl that came in last night in our program, and she slit her wrist all the way down, cuts everywhere. Just been addicted since she was 10 years old to drugs. And she said, I've been free for 24 days. I've been away from drugs. And we just had a big old party about it, and the call keeps you going when the burden leaves, or sometimes the burden for what you do comes and goes, but when you're called to something, it just lasts forever. And so that's what's kept us going for 29 years. But man, there's some moments where all you want to do is just lay in bed, not get up. And then, but when you take the first step, the scenery looks different. The car ride looks a little bit different. The next morning looks a little bit different. And don't give up before your breakthrough is what I always just tell people.
How many meals do y'all serve a day?
1,500 hot meals and 30,000 people a week.
Okay. They feed, because Pastor Matthew is very, very humble. They feed 30,000 people a week. 30,000 get fed a week. How many people reside on property?
650 beds for homeless people, then about 120 for volunteers. So 770, somewhere around there now.
Okay. People that would have no place to go.
Yep.
How much government funding do you get?
Zero.
How does that work? Was that an intentional thing on your part? Was that just like you wouldn't? What's behind that?
Well, I just didn't think that administrations come and go, things change, priorities change. If you get dependent upon that, what's going to happen is you're going to get to a place to where when there's a new administration and priorities change, you're going to be left. So, we work together. We do the best we can to try to fill in certain holes that we're working on now that don't change who you are. Because who we are now is just people that challenge people that God can do great things in their life. And we don't want to live under the restrictions of reporting to 15 other people, and when we've got a core team that's been here for life and ready to help people. So I think it's been good. It's allowed us to be exactly who we are. It's allowed us to not just minister to people's need, to minister to potential. And I think that's been one of the things that's allowed us to be fast and move quickly. When there's a disaster in this city, we can mobilize armies quickly. And it's been pretty revolutionary that what we can do with our army and our team on a daily basis without being restricted and having to report to so many people regarding everything. And so I think that the greatest risk of all is playing it safe. I really do. My dad used to tell me in football that when you stand around, it's 120 pounds. He said, if you stand around, you're going to get the fire knocked out of you. The best thing to do is to just jump in the pile. The safest place is in the pile. And I learned that after a concussion really quickly. But back then we didn't know concussions were. We just played. We didn't know that there was such a thing.
That is definitely the truth. That's what I say all the time. It's all the concussions I got. That's the problem. So a couple things that strike me. First of all, and when I met you, the only people I'd been around, and I want to be honest about this, I had been around in the church from a, let's say fundraising standpoint, but I'd been in a lot of meetings where a lot of folks had cited the Bible a lot. They talked about themselves a lot. This is my personal experience. I'm just telling you my personal experience. And it I've had a deep faith now since I was a kid. I mean, never, I got hit by a truck when I was 9, broke my legs, dislocated my hips, my heart stopped. And I remember somebody asked me a few years ago, did you ever think? And I'm like, no, I just I don't know. I can't explain it to you. I have a deep faith. I had more to do. God kept me. So I can't explain. I went through so many things in my life, wrecked cars, drunk, high, alive. But if I didn't have the faith I have, those experiences would have pushed me away from the church and then my faith if I didn't have the faith I have. You're the exact opposite of that. You're the antithesis of that. You're appreciative when people help. You're overly appreciative and overly recognition focused on those people. But your primary daily deal is to build relationships. I think that you and I have a phenomenal relationship, but I think had I just given you a check one time for 25 grand, we'd have a phenomenal relationship. I've never felt like and it makes me want to do more, honestly, because I want to do more. But, I think in today's world, how do we, and I'm curious, because we had this old adage at the company I was at. And what it was people would say when they get up on stage, because it was a business meeting, and the minute these men and women come in and start throwing God in your face, be careful, they want something. They're going to ask you for something. How do you navigate that? Like, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And I came to your place in a different event that actually not only you changed my life professionally, but you changed my life personally, because those folks, I didn't really like them.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, I'm like, those were never my people. Like, I don't enjoy being around them. I didn't enjoy being around them. And it was all just flash and show and God when it was convenient.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
How do we help educate people that none of that is a reflection of, I was reading this yesterday. It said, despite I give you every reason to lose faith and belief in me on a daily basis, but Lord, you never do, how do we help people understand that programs like yours are so focused on serving people, and it's the least judgmental environment I've ever been involved in? And I don't know if you have an answer to this, because I'm really curious. How do we address the people that have been pushed off, pushed away? They feel like they've been repelled because of experiences they've had.
Yeah, we face that a lot here in Los Angeles. When I take them on tours and I introduce them to people, a lot of those walls begin to fall down because nobody is that doesn't have a relationship with God is turned off by the fact of us doing the works of Jesus and being Jesus and loving people. It's the things that, we proclaim. It's somehow trying to take God into this whole structure of success and fame and fortune. And here's how you can get God to do this for you. Here's the things, rather than just simply, the Bible says of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who went about doing good. And that was just the one thing he was known for at the end of his life. He was known, that was the label, a man who went about doing good. And I think that many times people kind of, see the church as as no different than really a corporate entity. Like I was telling our team the other day, I said, corporations run certain ways and they have certain principles, and that they should. That's how they protect their company. But we are different. We run things different. We don't have to do it this way or that way. We take chances on people. We don't say that person's bad for our brand because they said this or did that. No, we pull people in. We don't separate people. We don't, and if people are broken and have a bad reputation in LA and they want to come to the Dream Center and just walk around and meet people, yes. So I think if the church has a big, the church is kind of known a little bit for closing our circle of love and excluding people. But we just believe in enlarging our circle of love and making it so big to where if your circle of love is so big, nobody can ever hurt you. But if you make your circle so small, everybody can hurt you.
But
so that's why we just let everyone into that circle and allow them to be loved on.
But isn't the way you do it in line, because I do read the Bible every day, in line with what the Bible says, in the way with this small circle, that's not biblical, right? I'm not a pastor, but where is it biblical to say, here are the people we got, screw everybody, let's be judgmental, we'll only let certain people into our tent? Where is that biblical?
It's not. And that's why Jesus came to the earth, to show a whole different way of life.
So how are so many people that are with allegedly with God on their shoulder doing it that way?
because they've stopped believing that the message of hope is greater than the moral code that they hold on to as being so. I mean, a lot of people can't. They get to the place to where they feel like, well, we can't reach the world; it's too far gone. There's too many situations. There's too many problems. So let's just kind of wait in our little bubble and let's just congratulate each other in our bubble about how good we are and all the things we haven't done. We haven't done this, we haven't done this. And so they kind of like live in this bubble of like praise, self-praise, to where we're different from everybody else in the world. When the truth is, they ought to just say we are fully vulnerable, messed up like everyone else. But let's reach other people that are hypocrites like us and bring them in. And so that whole no perfect people allowed mindset is so prevalent in the dream centers. It's so prevalent in church. And I have people share testimonies. They'll drop F-bombs every now and then, and our people laugh. Not because they think it's funny that someone awesome is cussing out the devil, and they don't even really know how far along they've been on their journey. They're just like 3 weeks in the program, but creating a culture where we're not afraid to invite people into our world and impact them. And so, especially with politics now, the polarization of the world, I think many times people are just like, oh man, that's a scary bunch out there. And they just really rather just sit into a small circle and just celebrate the fact that they're not like everybody else. And when the truth is, they probably are, just different ways, right. And so that's one of the things that we have to get over, I think, too, is just that mindset. Like, I remember one time I went to this church and they said, yeah, this girl, she was a teenager. She used to come to our church, but we kicked her out because she was pregnant. We didn't want to give all the other kids ideas. I'm like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? So it's like, that kind of mindset of like, we don't want that to be a part of our kids, but that is the that's completely opposite of the mission of the church. And so I just believe that the church ought to be messy. It ought to be reckless. There ought to be every now and then someone, walking to the stage or who's a little bit drunk and wants to shake hands with the pastor. I mean, a few yell outs every now and then. And our church is more like the Raiders crowd. We're like the Raider Nation of the church.
Well, not necessarily because you guys win. Raiders Nation is obnoxious with no winning. So that's not, they don't, but it's funny you say that, because I guess that's what happened when I met you, right? I immediately got exposed to the testimonials. Yeah. Immediately you were just saying like, this is what we do, not doing this. You're like, hey, let's just get these. This is what we do. Bring them on in, and whatever they say, whatever they don't, they don't. There's no perfect speech or response or any of that. And again, whenever anybody asks me what's the greatest place I've ever been able to speak at, the greatest thing I've ever been able to do from a speaking standpoint is talk at the Dream Center. Like, I had no business being on stage at a church, but then again, do the way you do what I do. I have the right to go on there and have an opinion and talk. And I try not to, I've not dropped an F-bomb when I was at church, not from the church stage. I've definitely not done that. I don't think, no,
they love you, man. They love you.
I try, but, when you look at, we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here, and, somebody said to me the other day, they said, what's the biggest issue you deal with? They asked me, and I respect this guy a lot. He's built a lot of big businesses. And I said, I think getting people to have the appropriate self-image to believe they can do it, because these businesses are not that complicated. And the more you meet some of the wealthy people, the more you won't be that impressed. You just realize they worked hard. But you won't be like, oh, intellectually they're so superior to me, and so I said, it's people's self-image. And he said, do you know what the biggest cause allegedly psychologically is to one's low self-image? And I was like, no, I do not. And he said the absence of unconditional love. And so, and I never thought about it, but I was like, dude, I've always felt like my self-image has always been good. Like, even though we were really jacked up, really broke, but I never realized that my mother, I never thought about that till he said it. And I'm 50. And I was like, my mother told me she loved me my mother would pick me up at the freaking state police barracks, be pissed for a minute, tell me she loved me. She might come at me, go to kick me, I move, she breaks her toe. She loved me. She loved lady, but she would not. I just knew no matter what happened, no matter what we did or didn't have in life, no matter how violent it might be, she loved me. What would be your advice to folks that are looking to build a business whether they're in insurance, real estate, whatever. We got all kinds of people on here. When they're not feeling so good about who they are and what they're doing, how do they push through?
Yeah, my dad used to tell me all the time growing up. He said, there's times in your life you just won't feel appreciated. There's times where you'll give and give and give, and nothing will ever come back in return. And he said that it's in those situations where you serve anyways, you love people anyways, and you live your life for an audience of one, and that is just to please God and honor God. But I think also, many of the times where you just feel like, you need to be encouraged and you need to be loved. What I just do is I go out and I give away whatever I want. If I need to feel appreciated, I give away appreciation. If I need to feel encouraged, I give away encouragement. And so there's many things in life that I want so bad, but I feel like I'm not surrounded by. And I used to feel so bad. I said, God, I need this in my life. I need people to pour into me in these areas and all of this, and me, I just need this, God. And then God said, no, whatever you want in life, you have to give it away. If you want to, and so I just decided that whenever there's a lack in my life of something that I really need, that's stopping me from pushing through, I give away that deficiency to somebody else. And every single time, give and it shall be given back to you. It takes place. And so it's a very aggressive way of living life. It's like, rather than sitting back and saying, man, I just wish people would appreciate me, I go out and appreciate somebody else. And I get the bounce back effect every single time of that. So that's because as a leader, you're never going to get as much encouragement as you deserve. You're never going to get as much appreciation as you deserve. You're never going to get like the pat on the back that you deserve. Because people think, well, they get many of them all the time, but the truth is you don't. When people say something nice to me after church, I'll say, thank you so much. I don't really hear that often. They say, really? Well, we never told you that because we just thought that you hear it all the time. But people get used to the fact that you're a strong, powerful leader, and many times they'll just kind of look over that. But I've just learned that if I can take whatever in my life that's holding me back, that's stopping me, and take that weapon out of the hand that's used to attack me and use it as a weapon to be encouraged, I can find encouragement anytime that I want to. I had to walk right up to the floors right now and see all the guys in the first 7 days of the program puking in a garbage can, go up there and pat them on the back and say, man, I'm so proud of you. 7 days, let's make it to 8. And I can encourage myself right there. And so as a leader, it's a lonely place. There's times where people should be giving you what you deserve, but that's what it's all about. It's about what Jesus didn't give, he deserved, he just gave freely. And I've always found that I get all the things that I needed back when I simply give it away, the things that I wish I had.
That was powerful. That's deep. And I think also, it's hard. I've seen a lot more people lately, which I appreciate, embracing the fact that, faith does go a long way. I think that, I don't know. People always ask me, are you afraid what you're going to say and what people are going to respond? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not, because of who I am. I don't, any of the things you'd hate me for, I'm not that guy anyway. I don't care. Like, I don't see anybody differently. Everybody's the same. I'm not worried about that stuff. So I'm going to say what's on my mind. Like, why would I not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I want to, first of all, thank you. And I encourage more people to get to the Dream Center. I mean, the numbers you gave are staggering as far as the families you're helping. You were a catalyst for our business during COVID because I watched you work 7 days a week. And I was like, that's my guy right there. We have a phenomenal event coming up called the Night of Dreams, September 20th.
Yep.
If you've not been before, are you doing it the same place?
The Beverly Hills Hotel. Yep.
Which is a phenomenal place. I would encourage all of you, and I want you to speak to it real quick. I'm going to tell you my personal experience, though I haven't gone there. You have, it's great. You have amazing guests and people that are there, and they're awesome people. Don't get me wrong. You have people that you're all going to know, and that's cool. And they talk about some stuff, and sometimes they perform, and and it's pretty amazing how many people that are, in the places they're in life that know the Dream Center or family of the Dream Center, right? But for us, it's the ability to be able to watch people come together in spirit and raise money for such a phenomenal cause. And the thing I will tell you about the Dream Center is I've been around. I've been to places, I've seen them, I've checked them out. I've never been to a place or met a person where I was 100% certain that every single dollar I gave went to make people's lives better. Mm-hmm. Every single dollar, that every dollar I was giving went directly to people to make their lives better. So tell us about the Night of Dreams, September 20th, how amazing it's going to be and how we need to get more people there, more people to give, more people to make a difference.
Yeah, September 20th at the Beverly Hills Hotel. We are just going to put together an event of a lifetime. It's only $250, per ticket. People can sign up and be there. And it really helps us. We really just kind of raise money for all the programs at the Dream Center, the hundreds of people that live there. We tell story after story. And this year I'm excited because I'm handling every aspect of every part of the program. So we're going to have story after story, lives after lives change. And I think people are going to really get a chance to see, whether it be the waiters all from the rehab program serving them that night and greeting them at the door, how real and raw this thing really is. And I think our goal is to take a very luxurious place like the Beverly Hills Hotel and to make it as raw as possible with just hard-hitting needs and people whose lives are being transformed. So the storytelling aspect is going to be quite incredible this year. And we're looking forward to it. And every year, the highlight of the night, though, I'm not just saying this, is when Sean takes the mic and he begins to speak to that business crowd. Never seen someone who can navigate that crowd as good. And he begins to speak to them and Hollywood entertainers about why they need to get involved in the Dream Center. And we had one man who was so stirred by Sean's speech. He goes, I can't let him get up there and pour his heart out like that and not do it. And then at that night, after the first time they committed $1 million, we had two people after Sean spoke who both gave $1 million that night. And that was a huge turning point in our life. And so family first to life, and your heart in that night is everywhere upon that place. And so we look forward to having some celebrities that will also be there, perform that night. We got one of the best comedians, I believe, in the country. He's got a big special coming out recently, Michael Jr., who's going to be hosting the night. Funniest guy I've ever met in my entire life. Absolutely incredible. Hope to have an appearance by The Rock, who showed up recently at the Dream Center. And I just want to say that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, when he showed up at the Dream Center to donate to help one of our homeless families, I'm almost in tears talking about it. He walked around this place. He loved on everyone. He heard everybody's story. He was so stirred by everybody. And he's supposed to stay for 5 minutes to drop off. He ended up staying like nearly an hour and high-fiving people, taking pictures. I'm like, wow, this guy is at the top of his field, and yet he's walking around serving people. And we hope to have his participation one way or another during that event. And because I've never seen someone love somebody more than he does. And it's truly incredible. So big night, a lot of things going on. And we're already starting to kind of raise money for it, because September 20th, we're going to go in there with a little bit of a head start to try to get people motivated and ready to go.
Well, I mean, here's the other, and I say this to everything you do. You all lucky I'm not in charge of the Night of Dreams and what it costs you to get in, because it wouldn't be $250. Tell you that right now. It'd be a lot more.
Better if you ran it.
No, it wouldn't be better if I ran. I'd be terrible at everything. But I would not. I mean, hell, if you got to see something from The Rock, no matter what he participated, it'd be more than $250. And all the amazing people you have there. Because at the end of the day, here's what this is about. And again, I love when you said that, because you said, hey man, The Rock was here and I saw him on Instagram and all that. But you see real people like this who appear, I don't know, who appear to not forget where they were, to appear that, you know what, one bad decision in life, I may not, or another break or something happened, God is great. And I'm here now on this side, and I get the ability to give back to folks that are just trying to get ahead, trying to catch a break, who are enmeshed in their faith going, this is my time now. And people haven't turned their back on them. When you get people at the top of their game that reach out and hug somebody and not turn their back on them, dude, that is life-changing. It's what you do. It's what all these amazing people do. It's what The Rock obviously recently did. And obviously whatever part he plays in Night of Dreams is unbelievable. And I'm for me, you know, the entertainment part and the success part, that's all great. But when I watched that dude do what he was doing there, and you sent me the clips and I was watching him on Instagram, I'm like, that's life-changing stuff. And that dude's badass. That's life-changing stuff. So get to the Night of Dreams, make a donation. If you can't be there, make a donation. We need your help. Pastor Matthew won't ask you for it. He'll just keep working 20 hours a day, sleep 2, get up, do whatever he's got to do. The guy's an animal. He ran 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days with like a broken leg, kept doing it. I've seen a dude shoot free throws for 24 straight hours. 20, you go, I could do that. 24 straight hours, dude. Never leaving the charity stripe. 20. He had to do them like the underhand Hoosiers way at the end, tore some tendons in his wrist. He's an animal. He's a worker because his heart's so big. We love you. We appreciate being on Punch Me in the Face. We look forward to seeing you at Night of Dreams, brother. And thanks for your time today.